Hello there and welcome to another edition of the Evening Review. My name is Okito Greg, and in studio with me this evening I have Katjipuka. She is an accomplished lawyer and a founding member of the People's Resistance Center. Good evening, Uno.
Good evening, thank you.
Thank you very much. Recently, the People's Resistance Center and you made a very unique request of government. Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Yes, so with everything going on in Palestine, Gaza, and the myriads of violations of international law being committed by Israel, we asked our government to start a criminal investigation into possible war crimes committed with a view to take action should they find well, depending on the findings of the investigation.
Okay.
We did this in cooperation with the International Center for Justice for Palestinians, who have put together a very detailed complaint, like very detailed factual listing all of the various violations. And what we've done is to provide an exposition on the applicable Namibian law that our authorities could rely on in order to start this investigation. So we wrote to the Inspector General
of the
police, obviously. We wrote to the Prosecutor General because an investigation of this nature would require her guidance. I mean, the police would need to be guided. Mm-hmm. We also wrote to the Minister of Justice, under whom there's a directorate in the Ministry of Justice that deals with international cooperation in civil and criminal matters. And the individuals in that department would have the necessary expertise to also help guide the police and to connect with other countries in order to obtain information.
So just to recap what you've just told us, we do have the law that says we can do this.
Yes. We have the Geneva Conventions Act of 2003, which came into force on the 1st of October 2004, which essentially incorporates, expressly incorporates the Geneva Conventions and its protocols into Namibian domestic law. Okay. And the fourth Geneva Convention in particular deals with the protection of civilians in times of war. And when you have regards at what is happening or what Israel is actually doing to Palestinians, asking the population to move back and forth, basically displacing them from one place to another, the mass killings, the killings of journalists, medical workers, aid workers, the complete destruction of all hospitals which have protected status, schools, churches, you name it. The starvation, deprivation of food, all of those actions are prohibited specifically under the Geneva Conventions, in particular the fourth Geneva Conventions. Okay, okay. And what is important to note, because someone might ask, yeah, but all of that is happening in Palestine, where does Namibia come in? The Geneva Conventions Act, Namibian domestic legislation, expressly provides that anybody who in Namibia or elsewhere commits breaches of the Geneva Conventions is guilty of a crime under Namibian law, and the act and that section applies to anybody regardless of nationality or citizenship, which essentially is adopting the universal jurisdiction, and that what gives Namibia the power and jurisdiction to actually look into what is happening and to take the necessary action.
And do we have the capacity to do investigations?
Yes. Before I go to capacity, let me also point out that we're a member, a states party to the Genocide Convention, which also requires us to prevent and punish genocide. So there's an overlap. Okay. In terms of capacity, yes. First of all, we have the various officers that I've mentioned already who have the capacity. But also in terms of investigation, all they would need to do is to tap into the network. There are various organizations in various countries who are keeping track of what is happening. For example, you would recall the IDF soldiers and their TikToks, their organizations and people tracking them in an effort to identify them and keeping record of all of that.
That's the Israeli Defense Force, the military in Israel.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
the ones committing the war crimes,
Yes.
essentially. You have the Hind Rajab Foundation, for example, that's doing excellent work. And you have various organizations and individuals who are actually keeping track. So it would be easy for us, police, the Director of International Cooperation, as well as the PG, who herself has her own network in terms of connecting with prosecutions or prosecutorial authorities worldwide. It'd be an easy feat. You would really literally have to just tap into the network to get the information that you require.
Okay, so we have the legal jurisdiction and we have the capacity. What was the answer that you received?
Well, in true Namibian style, you have everybody passing the buck so as to relieve themselves of responsibility and to excuse their inaction or the refusal to act, in my opinion. So you'd have the Minister of Justice telling us, please address your concerns to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Today it's Ministry of International Relations and Trade.
Yes.
Which makes you wonder, okay, but are you not the minister, the justice minister now, who is representing Namibia at the Hague Group, which was formed in January of this year, which is a grouping of states that have committed themselves, amongst other things, to bring those responsible for the ongoing genocide in Gaza to accountability. He is the one representing us. There was an emergency meeting in July where they adopted, I think, 6 measures, one of which was to ensure compliance with our international obligations, to ensure that we hold people accountable. So if he's the one in Bogota, why is he referring me to the Minister of Foreign Affairs? The police, who initially had acknowledged our request and said they will look into it, acknowledging, look, this is the first time we're getting this request, so we'll have to consult extensively, also ended up referring me to Foreign Affairs. Then you have the PG who's saying, no, I don't do anything, I can only guide the police, basically also declining to do anything. We even reached out to Ministry of Home Affairs, Chief of Immigration, who made it clear that, yes, they can track who comes in and out of the country, which is clear. I know they can do that. But in order to take any meaningful action, they too would require instructions from Foreign Affairs.
Foreign Affairs,
Yes.
International Cooperation and Trade.
Yes,
But,
sorry, I still call them Foreign Affairs, it's easier.
The Minister
Yes.
of International Cooperation and Trade just recently made a statement on behalf of our government rejecting Israel's plan to take over Gaza city.
Yes.
So what did the ministry answer you?
Well, first, as I'm writing to all and sundry, trying to get any kind of response, I then eventually turned to the Ministry of International Relations, because if everybody says go there,
Yes.
I said, well, I wrote to them to say, look, this doesn't fall within your purview, but since everybody's telling me to write to you, I'm writing to you to please ask these other institutions and offices to please do their jobs. As I'm waiting for an answer from them, I see this media release where they're saying, oh, we strongly condemn this, and we call on UN members to please do everything in their power to uphold their international obligations, and crucially, not to stand by and watch as catastrophe unfolds. That's not a direct quote, but the ministry called on countries not to merely stand by and do nothing. So I responded, I wrote another email to them and say, look, I read this media release with great interest. We've written to you, I'm still waiting for an answer, but in taking up what you've said, okay, so you're saying UN member countries should not merely stand by, and basically telling them we can't ask other countries not to stand by and do nothing without pointing to the measures that we as Namibia are taking.
Yes.
So eventually I got a response from Foreign Affairs, and predictably they're telling me, well, Uno, the things you're asking for do not fall within our purview. And they don't. Because when I wrote to police, prosecution, and justice, I tailored the request we're making to what is within their power that I know realistically they can do. So now with this runaround, everybody pointing the finger at the other one, I'm left wondering, well, we have international obligations. We are required to act. Are we as Namibians really going to allow our government outside there, when they go to all these international meetings, to tell the international community that, no, we're serious about taking action, then come home and do nothing? Are we prepared to be that country? That is my question to my fellow Namibians.
It's a very interesting question, and we'll be back to explore that a little bit more just after this commercial break, so please stay with us.
AITSA is 'n echt Namibiese inisiatief. Ons reis op die hartklop van Afrika en vertel stories van mense en hul dorpe op verskeie platforms insluitende televisie en sosiale media. Dit is joune, syne, julle en ook almal van hulle aan die ander kant van ons grense sinne, en dit maak van AITSA 'n lekker ding. Kyk AITSA Woensdae om 20:30 op NTV, oneup2.com, asook op Netwerk Media Hub en NTV Afrikaanse YouTube kanale. Volg ons op Facebook of besoek ons webwerf by aitsafrica.com.
Welcome back to the evening review. My name is Ogito Craig, and in studio with me I have accomplished lawyer Uno. Uno, tell us, we were discussing the reluctance of government to act in terms of the situation in Palestine with Israel's war there. But one of the questions that keeps coming up, is it a genocide that's happening?
Yes. And just the other day, the International Association of Genocide Scholars was the latest in a string of organizations that came forth. They passed a resolution on the 31st of August. So that's like, what, 2 days ago?
Yes.
Saying what Israel is doing in Gaza meets the legal definition of genocide. And that is really like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, various UN reports have come out. So anybody who at this point, 2 years into this genocide, still wants to debate whether or not it is a genocide, in my opinion, is either deeply ignorant or more likely acting in bad faith.
And what makes this situation so unique is that for the first time in history, possibly, it's happening on a world stage. We've got media now that is showing us pictures, sometimes live, of the things that's happening. But it does seem that the world is just watching. Namibia is just watching. What do you think is the reason behind that? What causes the inactivity, or what stops action from taking place?
You see, I mean, they call it the first live stream genocide, which is hard to wrap your head around. We're all seeing what is happening, and yet no one is doing anything about it. One reason is that the entire West is complicit and is participating in this genocide. And ordinarily, I guess we've become accustomed to expecting the West to do something about various situations around the globe.
Yeah.
But now we have a situation where the West is participating and cheerleading the genocide. So we can't expect the West to do anything. So it falls on us, the rest of the countries, to do something. But as you can see with our own authorities, they are afraid. I don't know why they're not doing anything. The only inference I can draw is that they are scared. Scared of what? I don't know.
Do you think maybe it's a matter of interest? I know that the diamond industry is very important to us, and in terms of cutting and polishing. There's significant investment from Israeli companies in Namibian diamond cutting and polishing. Do you think that the fear of jeopardizing that investment might be a motivation why we are slow to take action? And also, did you guys, in your request for action, also look at companies acting in Namibia which might be funding the war?
One of the requests that we've made is that government look at commercial entities and individuals engaged in business to see whether or not they are tied to Israel in a manner that advances illegal activity on the part of Israel generally, but also individuals involved. Look, with our own history, we cannot be the country that decides selfishly to look out for its own interest. We accepted international solidarity in very concrete forms, including, by the way, military assistance. So we can't be the ones to say, well, you know, it's not our problem. But also, what government needs to do, when we say we have international obligations and these are the things that we must uphold, then you must look into, okay, so what is it that we have in this country? What links do we have? And in terms of international law, once it is clear that what is happening is a genocide, you are required to cut ties with the entity that is committing genocide. So if that means we have to rearrange our diamond trades and whatever, or any other business, then that is what needs to happen.
I see,
Yes.
I see.
But our government is afraid to even look. This is where I get very upset.
To even do the investigation.
Just do the investigation, establish the facts,
Yeah. But
and then we can still argue about what is to be done and what is not to be done.
I think many Namibians would feel that there's so much to investigate here in the country. Can we really afford to be investigating something that's happening on the other side of the world? I mean, there's corruption, mismanagement, all sorts of things that happen for which nobody is held accountable. Even the other day, the president is on record as saying that AgriBizDev, which was a government entity, was responsible for the failure of our green schemes. And yet nobody's investigating any of those participants or those decision makers. Can we really afford to look elsewhere while we've got so many problems at home?
You see, it's not a question of looking elsewhere. I think maybe it's time as Namibians that we open our eyes and take a critical look at people we have put in charge. Because the refusal to act to uphold international law, which by the way forms part of our domestic law, and the refusal to address domestic issues maybe comes from the same source.
Very interesting. You know, you mentioned earlier about the international solidarity and the help that we received as a country to achieve our own independence. And that also included that we were able to send people abroad and they were welcomed. Namibians were welcomed and housed and educated. I saw that just the other day, England made a significant step where they are now going to pass a law welcoming Palestinian refugees, which I was quite surprised about. But do you think that Namibia would welcome such refugees if they landed on our shores?
I would hope so. I mean, I am one of those who were lucky enough. I was born a refugee in Zambia. I grew up in East Germany, where people took us in, raised us, educated us. A lot of people went everywhere, Cuba, you know, Russia back in the day. I mean, at the very least, just given our own history, that is the one thing we should be able to do. Take in refugees.
Yeah.
And give them a safe home, knowing that it ought to be temporary, because we know what the plan is, to permanently displace Palestinians. They should have the opportunity one day, God willing, to return the same way that we returned in 1989. And if you remember, you know, on TV, the pictures, I mean, it was
It was a momentous occasion.
Yes, it was.
For Namibia.
Yes.
Do you think that there will be a Palestine to return to, though? I mean, especially considering this latest plan announced by Israel to take over Gaza City, and what was also mentioned by the American President Donald Trump, that he wouldn't mind turning the whole strip into a vacation resort.
Look, I don't know. I move from being optimistic just because, and being deeply pessimistic. That those I swing every day depending on what time of day you find me. But what I know and what we can see is that the Palestinian people are resisting. We should assist them in their resistance, and we should do everything in our power to make sure that one day there will be a free Palestine.
You know, this isn't the only issue for which you have stood up and for which you have fought on behalf of other people, often people who don't have a voice of their own. Many Namibians face injustices in their daily lives. How do you keep fighting? You know, how do you keep getting up again and trying again?
I don't know. I just do. I just do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, in terms of this particular effort, what do you think your next steps could be? Do you think you've exhausted all the efforts that you can make?
Oh, no. This is just the beginning. This is a friendly appeal to our authorities to say, look,
Do the right thing.
do the right thing. If you don't want to do the right thing, we may need to force you to do the right thing.
Is that possible?
Oh, yes. You see, what we have is authorities refusing to act or to exercise powers that are within their jurisdiction.
Okay.
If we go to court, a court might tell them, well, these are your powers, these are your obligations, you need to do something. Because failure to act is to be complicit in the genocide that is currently ongoing. So you have the choice. You can either act, be forced to act, or you may find yourself at the end of the day be found to be complicit. If I were them, I'd act.
So what you're saying is that by not taking the actions that we are able to take,
Yes.
we are actually on the side of the people committing atrocities
Yes.
day in and day out.
Yes.
The same kind of atrocities, even worse than what was committed against our own
Yes.
people
Yes.
and what we have lived through.
Yes.
That's a very strong stance.
That is just the law.
Yeah.
You have an obligation to act, to prevent and punish genocide, to punish breaches of the Geneva Conventions. That is Namibian law. If you don't do that, you are complicit. It's simple.
Sure. It's got a lot of consequences. And by taking such a strong stance, as we saw with the frontline states back in our own history, there are consequences also for the population of the country that takes a stance. Do you think that Namibians are willing to face those consequences and make sacrifices on behalf of people that we've never met from the other side of the world?
I would hope so, because again, I keep going back to our own history.
Yeah.
We had countries around the globe, people around the globe, standing up for us. They were willing to sacrifice everything to see apartheid South Africa fall.
Yes.
So we're going to say what? We're entitled to solidarity when we are affected, but we have no obligation to pay it forward?
But if you look at our society today, the Namibians you meet on the street, do you think we are the people who have the fortitude and the morals to do that, or have we become a different society?
You know, I don't know. I had a conversation sometime last year with a few people on Palestine. We were discussing it casually, I guess. And I was shocked to see their reaction. First, they were trying to tell me, oh, this is a religious war. No, it's not. Oh, no, you know, I mean, what can we say? What can we do? I think Namibians need to remind themselves of their own history. And if we remember our own history, I mean, I have to have some faith in Namibians that we would do the right thing. But I don't know. I don't know what people are being told in the churches these days.
Yeah. So coming back to what you are asking our government to do, what do you think that the first steps would be if they agreed to take action?
The first steps, pretty much what I've told them to do. First, read the complaint that we've submitted. It is very detailed. Obviously, it presents the situation at a certain part in time. Like when we submitted it, it was almost up to date with what was happening on the ground. Since then, things have only gotten worse. So read the complaint. And then what we're asking for is, I'm asking them to endorse the ICC warrants already issued against Netanyahu and Gallant. That doesn't take much. Then there are individuals.
So we haven't endorsed those warrants up to
No,
date.
and to be fair, you don't yet have to.
Okay.
But I think it is something that we could do that would set the tone for other countries to follow suit.
And demonstrate our
Yes, our commitment to the ICC.
Yes.
Then we could issue arrest warrants based on the information in the very detailed complaint against individuals who are named in the complaint. They are named and there's an explanation and evidence as to why they should be held accountable. And this is more, you know, top officials.
So if we did that, it doesn't mean we've got to send somebody after them. It just means that if they come here,
yes,
we'd arrest them.
You would arrest them.
I see.
Then we're asking, look into these commercial entities and individuals. Establish what is going on and then take the necessary measures. And you could include seizure and forfeiture of assets, for example. Take that money, donate it to Palestine. You would, and this is where Home Affairs comes in. Look at who's been coming in and out of the country. I don't know, but it's possible that we have dual nationals. Find out whether or not they've served in the Israeli army since October the 7th. It's easy to do. Home Affairs should be able to do this easily.
Uno, I got to cut you short there
sorry.
because our time is almost finished. But thank you so much for coming and elucidating and expanding on this issue. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And that's all we have this evening. But join us again for the next evening review. Until then, good night.